The producer leaned back in his chair, arms folded, and said it clearly. If Jackie wanted to stay on the film, he'd need to let the stunt team handle the dangerous work. No exceptions. Jackie sat across from him in that small office on the New Line cinema lot, quiet, looking at his hands. It was 1995, and this was supposed to be his breakthrough, the film that would finally make him a star in America after 15 years of trying. But now, 3 weeks into production on Rumble in the Bronx, the entire project was hanging by a thread. And the thing they were asking him to give up was the only reason he'd spent 3 decades breaking his body in the first place. He didn't respond right away. He just nodded slightly as if he understood and left the room. What happened next would determine whether Jackie Chan became another foreign action star who got repackaged and forgotten, or whether he'd be allowed to do what he'd always done, put his life on the line so the audience would know it was real. To understand why that moment mattered, you have to go back a few years. By the mid-1990s, Jackie Chan was already a legend. In Hong Kong, his name meant something closer to myth than celebrity. He'd been making films since he was a child, training in the Peking Opera School under Master Yu Jim Yuen, a man who believed that discipline was taught through pain. Jackie learned to move like water, fall like a stone, and get back up no matter how badly he was hurt. He'd broken nearly every bone in his body by the time he was 30. His films, Project A, Police Story, Drunken Master, were not just action movies. They were physical poetry, comedies laced with danger, and every frame carried the weight of real risk. Audiences in Asia knew that when Jackie jumped from a building or slid down a pole wrapped in live electrical lights, it wasn't a trick. It was him. That's what made it magic. But in America, he was nobody. He'd tried before. The Big Brawl in 1980, The Protector in 1985. And both times, Hollywood had tried to turn him into someone he wasn't. They wanted him to be tougher, meaner, more like the American action heroes people were used to. They didn't understand that Jackie's power came from being vulnerable, from showing the pain, from making the audience laugh and wince at the same time. So he went back to Hong Kong, kept making his own films his own way, and figured maybe America just wasn't for him. Then in the early 90s, a producer named Raymond Chow in New Line Cinema decided to try again. They brought Jackie over for Rumble in the Bronx, a mid-budget action film set in New York, though it was actually shot in Vancouver because it was cheaper. The story was simple. Jackie plays a Hong Kong cop visiting his uncle in the Bronx, gets caught up with a street gang, and ends up fighting both them and a bigger crime syndicate. It wasn't meant to be high art, it was meant to be a test. Could Jackie Chan work in the American system? Could he bring his Hong Kong style to a Western audience without losing what made him special? The early days of filming went well. Jackie did what he always did, threw himself into the stunts, choreographed the fights with his team, moved through the sequences with a speed and precision that left the American crew in awe. But there were problems. The Hollywood system didn't work like Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, Jackie had control. He was the director, the star, the stunt coordinator, sometimes the writer. He could shoot a scene 50 times if he wanted, could adjust the choreography on the fly, could take the risks he needed to take because everyone around him understood that's how he worked. But in Hollywood, there were insurance companies. There were union rules. There were lawyers who looked at Jackie's track record of injuries and saw a liability, not an artist. And there were producers who believed the American audience wouldn't care if Jackie did his own stunts or not. They just wanted to see a good action movie. 3 weeks into shooting, Jackie broke his ankle. It happened during a scene where he was supposed to jump from a bridge onto a hovercraft. It was a relatively simple stunt by his standards, but he landed wrong and the bone cracked. The pain was immediate and severe. A doctor was called, x-rays were taken. The ankle was broken, no question. The production shut down for the day. Jackie went back to his hotel, iced the ankle, didn't sleep much. The next morning he showed up on set, the ankle wrapped, walking with a slight limp, and told the director he was ready to keep shooting. The producers were stunned. In Hollywood, if a star breaks a bone, production stops. You wait for it to heal. You adjust the schedule. You protect your investment. But Jackie wasn't interested in stopping. He'd been hurt worse. He'd kept filming with broken ribs, dislocated shoulders, a fractured skull. This was just an ankle. The producers, however, had a different concern. They weren't worried about Jackie's willingness to work through pain. They were worried about the insurance and the liability. If Jackie kept doing his own stunts and got hurt worse, the film could be shut down entirely. They could lose millions. So they made a decision. They called a meeting. Jackie, the producers, the stunt coordinator, a few studio executives. They sat down in a small conference room, and the message was delivered calmly, professionally. Jackie could stay on the film, but from now on, the dangerous stunts would be handled by professional stunt doubles. It wasn't personal. It was policy. It was how things were done in America. They had people who were trained for this, people who could make it look just as good, and Jackie could focus on the acting and the lighter action. It made sense, they said. It was safer. It was smarter. Jackie listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't get angry. He just sat there, hands folded on the table, and when they finished talking, he looked at the producer and asked a simple question. If the audience doesn't know it's really me, why would they care? The producer started to answer. Something about camera angles and editing, about how the audience wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But Jackie cut him off gently. He said that his whole career, everything he'd built, was based on one promise. When you watch me, you know it's real. The falls are real. The punches are real. The risk is real. That's why people feel something when they watch. It's not just about the action. It's about trust. If I use a double, I'm lying. And once I start lying, I'm not Jackie Chan anymore. I'm just another actor in an action movie. The room went quiet. The producers looked at each other. This wasn't what they expected. They thought Jackie would see reason, would understand the business side, would be grateful for the opportunity. But Jackie wasn't negotiating. He wasn't asking for more money or a better trailer. He was drawing a line. He was saying that if they wanted him in this movie, they had to let him do it his way. And if they didn't, he'd walk. The producer in charge, a man named Robert Shea, leaned forward. He wasn't angry. He was calculating. He'd already invested a significant amount of money into this project. Jackie was the whole movie. Without him, they had nothing. But if they let him keep doing his own stunts and he got seriously injured, they could lose everything anyway. It was a risk either way. Shea looked at Jackie for a long moment, and then he asked, "What if you get hurt worse? What if you can't finish the film?" Jackie didn't hesitate. He said, "Then that's on me. I'll finish. I always finish." And there was something in the way he said it, calm, certain, without bravado, that made Shea believe him. It wasn't a promise. It was a fact. Jackie had never left a film unfinished. He'd been carried off sets on stretchers and come back the next day. He'd filmed fight scenes with a hole in his skull. He didn't know how to quit. Shea sat back. He looked at the other producers. Then he said, "All right, we do it your way, but you need to be smart. No unnecessary risks, and if the injury gets worse, we reassess." Jackie nodded. That was all he needed. For the rest of the shoot, Jackie worked with the broken ankle. He modified some of the choreography to protect it, but he didn't stop. He still jumped off buildings, still slid under trucks, still took the hits. The crew watched in disbelief. The American stunt team, who'd been prepared to take over, ended up just supporting him, setting up the shots, making sure the equipment was safe. They'd never seen anyone work like this. Not because Jackie was trying to prove something, but because this was just how he understood filmmaking. The action wasn't separate from the story. It was the story. And if it wasn't real, it didn't matter. When Rumble in the Bronx was released in 1996, it became a surprise hit. It made over $30 million in North America, which doesn't sound like much now, but for a dubbed Hong Kong film with a relatively unknown star, it was huge. Critics noticed something different about it. The action felt alive. The stunts had weight. And during the credits, Jackie did something Hollywood films never did. He showed the outtakes, the falls that went wrong, the crashes that hurt, the moments where he got back up and laughed through the pain. Audiences stayed in their seats and watched, and for the first time, many of them understood what Jackie had been trying to protect. They saw that this wasn't just entertainment, it was dedication. It was craft. It was a man who believed the audience deserved the truth. The success of Rumble in the Bronx changed everything. Suddenly, Hollywood wasn't trying to change Jackie anymore. They wanted him as he was. Rush Hour came 2 years later, and it made over $200 million worldwide. Jackie became a household name in America, not because he compromised, but because he refused to. The studios learned that his way worked, that audiences responded to authenticity, that there was value in letting an artist be who they were. And Jackie kept doing his own stunts for the next 2 decades, breaking more bones, taking more risks, always putting the truth of the action above his own safety. He never used a double for anything that mattered. He never lied to the audience. Looking back, that moment in the office wasn't loud. There was no shouting, no storming out, no dramatic confrontation. It was just a man sitting across from people who had the power to end his dream, quietly saying no. And the power in that no came from the fact that it wasn't about ego or pride. It was about what he owed to the people watching. Jackie understood something that Hollywood often forgets. The audience knows. They might not be able to explain it, but they can feel when something is real and when it's not. And once you lose that trust, you don't get it back. So he refused to lose it, even when it would have been easier, safer, smarter to just go along. He chose the hard path because it was the only one that let him sleep at night. And in the end, that choice didn't just save one movie. It defined a legacy. Because respect isn't something you demand. It's something you earn, one broken bone at a time, by never asking the audience to believe something you wouldn't do yourself.